go ahead and get started. So welcome everybody. So for those of you that haven't met me yet, my name is Steve Mills. I'm a technical lead at Facebook, and I also am one of the co-project leads for the Rack and Power project for Open Compute. So first of all, I kind of want to welcome you guys to the Rack and Power track this morning. So I'll be leading this track in the morning, and then in the afternoon we have a combined track between Rack and Power and high performance computing, where we'd be focused mainly on advanced cooling solutions, which is a sub-project that we just announced. It was mentioned yesterday in the keynotes. That is structured underneath Rack and Power. So we'll be spending the afternoon talking about that particular topic. So right now, I'd like to introduce my other co-lead. This is Caleb.
Yep, good morning. Caleb Lusk with Rittal, and yeah, just started as a co-lead, so for the next 2 years. I recognize a lot of faces out there from past projects, but yeah, that's it.
So if you got any questions related to Rack and Power or the advanced cooling, yeah, feel free to talk to one of us, and we can help get you guys engaged in what's going on. So first up today is I'm going to be doing an update on, or this is a proposal for an update for OpenRack 2.0 specification, going from 2.0 to 2.1. So the modifications are relatively modest. I'm just going to go through them real quick so that we can kind of get public feedback on the proposed changes. And then if, based on that kind of feedback, then we'll take it to the next step. So it's kind of the first opportunity for people to look at all these changes all at one time. So these right now are the changes that are proposed for 2.1. We're looking at change to the busbar thickness. There's also a change to the frame tolerances. And we're also looking at adding an appendix into the back of the specification. So this is an optional specification. It's basically a test methodology that's preferred for doing rack level EMI testing. So you're free to do your EMI testing any way you would like, but this provides a standardized methodology for some of the members of the community that are doing rack level EMI testing, so that we're all using essentially the same methodology. And then we've also got some figures that were in the last revision of the specification that, for whatever reason, when it got published out, disappeared. So we're just going to put those figures back in. All right, so starting with the busbar thickness change. So for both of the bus bars right now, it's set at 0.3 millimeters. We're going to be changing that to 0.13 millimeters. This is well within the capabilities of the bus bar manufacturers, and it makes it much easier on the connector manufacturers to have that a little bit tighter. So does anybody see any issues with this? I think several of the manufacturers already kind of reviewed it and agreed that this was acceptable. So that's a pretty minor change. The next one is the rack frame tolerance. So this one's a little bit more substantial. So this essentially would change the distance from the hard stops that are back here in the back of the rack from the front stops that retain the IT gear. So just going from 1 to 0.6. So I don't know if anybody has any feedback on this change. Okay. Yeah, if you could talk into that so they can hear it.
Do you know what would be, would there be any issues with potentially keeping the same tolerance of ±1 and moving the nominal by 0.4? And maybe firstly, if you could tell us why you've changed to 0.6 in the first place.
Sure, sure. So some of the IT gear was basically line to line at worst case. So we found a few issues where the IT gear would not latch as well as we would like. So this kind of gives us a little bit more space that the tolerances aren't like directly right on top of each other. So so we don't necessarily need to go plus or minus 6 on both sides, right? So it could be, we could just shift the nominal, and instead of it being like a 1.2, right? We could go down to like a 1.6, shift the nominal a little bit, so that we're getting away from the too tight condition and not necessarily opening up the front side. So that's certainly a possibility. I would have to look at the tolerance loop to see if we can actually keep it plus or minus 0.1 and shift the nominal 0.4.
Yeah.
So if we changed it to say, let's say 645 point, say point, well, let's say if we shift the nominal up, yeah, 0.4, so you were at minus 0.6 plus 1, or no, the other way around.
Yeah.
Minus 1 plus 0.6. That I'm sure we could do. So you think that would be acceptable? You give you plus or minus 0.8 basically instead of 1.
Yeah. Potentially, it's just thinking of the risk of increasing manufacturing costs from reducing tolerance, obviously.
Yep.
What would be the problem with having that plus 1? Do you not know right now? Or
Yeah, I don't know. So the risk is that if the IT gear disconnects too much, right, it'll fall off the bus bar in the back. So I would just have to go through the tolerance loop and make sure that 0.4.
We did consider, obviously, the equipment is the main thing, and we thought 0.4 is so minuscule, we're hoping that wouldn't actually affect the engagement. But
Sure.
I suppose an investigation needs to be had.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, I just have to go back and check and see if that's legitimate. So I guess if we were to go to shift the nominal and go to plus or minus 0.8, I'm sure we could do that.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Did you make a note of that,
Yeah.
Caleb? Okay, so let me take a look at that and see what I can do. Anybody else have any feedback on that modification to the spec? Okay. Okay, so this is Appendix D, and as I was telling you earlier, right, this is just an optional methodology for doing this testing. You're free to do it any way you like, but if you can always reference this for tests. So, for example, if Facebook or Google is requesting this kind of testing, we could just reference this rather than having to specify it each time. So because the IT gear that's going into the rack is going to be changing, right? I mean, Facebook has several different configurations. Everybody's got different configurations. We have to do certification for each different types of configuration, but if we want to check the quality of or the effectiveness of the rack, this has got to be kind of agnostic to the equipment that's in it. So what this is doing is it's calculating essentially an effectiveness. This is the reason there's all this text up here. This is all the text that's going to be in the specification. So if you don't like where a comma or a period is, you can let me know, and I can go through and see about getting that changed. So essentially, it defines a process where you'll look at the total amount of emissions of a standardized emitter with the door open. You take a measurement, then you close the door, take this measurement again, and you take the ratio between the two of them to generate this shielding effectiveness. And that'll tell you how much reduction you're getting in EMI based on the cabinet. So this just kind of describes in detail the particular spec that they're referencing. basically the type of emitter that you need and the way it should be set up into the rack. I'll let you guys read this. So if you got any issues, just let me know. So you just want to make sure that the emitter is meets certain, it's standardized as well, so the results that you get are all similar. And I'm not going to go through all this either. So this whole thing is out on the wiki if anybody wants to send this to your regulatory engineers to get feedback, or more of your experts. This is essentially just a test methodology. And this is essentially how you would calculate the difference between the two. So before versus after. So if we set a particular shielding effectiveness ratio of 20 dB or 30 dB across this frequency range, this would be the test results that we'd be looking for. Anybody have any issues with that as it is right now? So this will be, this won't go to the incubation committee for at least another month. So feel free to review the details of this with your regulatory teams if you'd like, and provide feedback into the mailing list. And then the final one is just replacing the figures that mysteriously disappeared between final review and publication of the specification. So I'm just going to go and put all those back in. There's not any changes to them. They just went away. So that's all the changes that we've got right now. It's not very deep. So I don't know if you've got any questions right now. I can answer those real quick. All right, super. That's pretty easy. So you got one question so far. So I'll have to go check that out. Okay, so in terms of specification review, that's it for what we've got right now. So at this point, you guys are free to go, and I'm more than happy to sit here and answer questions related to the Rack and Power project in general, or advanced cooling, or anything else you guys would like have questions about. So if you have more general questions, I can answer those, or you guys are free to go. The next one's not until 10 o'clock. Yeah?
One question regarding the shielding effectiveness.
Yeah.
So the frequency which I see is just running up to 1 gigahertz. So I wonder, because nowadays the processors are in a much higher frequency range. So is this really then suitable measurement, just 1 gigahertz, or would it make sense to go to further levels?
Sure. So this isn't really my area of expertise, but I believe, like in the U.S., the FCC cuts it off at like 1 gigahertz. It's not regulated above that level, so we don't necessarily test above that, or require necessary certification. We'll normally test if you can get a generator, especially maybe not in this particular one, because my understanding is it's difficult to get emitters that'll go above 1 gigahertz, which is maybe why this is set up for that. So we'll normally test above that, so we understand it, but it's not necessarily regulated above that. So I believe that's why this is set up with that 1 gigahertz cut, is availability of emitters, which seems strange because you'd think there'd be lots of 20 gigahertz and 40 gigahertz emissions, but that's what I'm told. Sure. Any other questions? Yes?
Hi. One question regarding not about red, but power side.
Sure.
We are receiving some rumors, or not only rumors, some information about ideas for battery standardization.
Battery standardization?
Yeah.
Okay.
Could you a little bit describe about that process, where you are, and how you like to move forward, and what's about time target for close that?
Okay. So right now, I don't believe we've got anything going in Rack and Power related to like standardization of the cells. Is that what you're asking about, the cells, or like the BBU? Yeah, the whole BBU. So I think the only thing, so the only thing that we've got close to standardization would be some discussions that we're having in the Rack and Power project about setting kind of some recommended power levels, like preferred power SKUs for the racks, rather than the community trying to all target, you know, whatever they can find. Right, we'd identify some preferred levels that would, you know, you might have some for lower level power, and then some other ones for 20 kilowatts for other customers, that, and maybe some others that are more like 40 kilowatts for your HPC. So by setting those power levels, right, then, you know, that helps the people that are doing BBUs, power supplies, PDUs, and even now into the advanced cooling, right? They can all target that particular power level with a solution. But that's really all we're doing right now. I mean, that's the closest I can think of standardizing BBUs.
Yeah, now is is only one power BBU source available from Panasonic, especially for V2 power supply.
Okay.
In some discussions about specification,
Mm-hmm.
or give a chance to second source guys build a BBU compatible with PowerShell, V2 PowerShell.
Okay.
One of the issues that not all of the spec for BBU management comes.
Yes.
Partially it's a proprietary.
Yes.
This
Yes.
is the biggest problem for second source guys to build a compatible BBU.
Okay.
What
Sure.
do you think about that? It will be open soon, or
Yeah. So right now, as far as I know, there's nobody working on defining it. There's no reason we couldn't work on that, right? If there's people that are interested in working on it, it'd just be a matter of defining some of that management, and then adding that into the existing spec, right? So there is some, right, like you're mentioning, right? There's already some specification around the BBU, but some of it's not fully defined. So it would just be a matter of getting interested parties together to add that level of detail in.
the problem of Panasonic supply demand? Panasonic not able to fulfill all the orders
Sure.
in case of the Tesla
Yep.
demand.
Yep.
Some other vendors like Samsung and other ones to be happy to use the second source,
Sure.
but not able to do that.
So, I mean, all we got to do is get them together and finish adding whatever they need to the spec, and then it'd be fully capable. So, yep, I think that'd be great. It's just a matter of members of the community coming forward and finishing it up.
Be in touch with us.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Absolutely. I mean, is there anybody here present that'd be interested in working on that as well? If not, I mean, we can definitely come talk to me afterwards, and we'll see if we can get some more people involved. Yeah, sure. Any other questions at all? Okay. If not, that's it. Thanks a lot. We appreciate it.